Nightmare wedding. My mother-in-law drugged my drink and tried to buy my forgiveness. Hi everyone, I'm Rachel, 27F, and a week ago I married Jaden, 32 meters, the man I thought was my soulmate. Little did I know, our wedding day would devolve into a twisted melodrama worthy of its own primetime slot. Buckle up because this is a story you won't believe. It all started 2 years ago, innocently enough, at my local coffee shop. I was a caffeine fiend, needing my morning fix to even think about facing the day. One morning, I noticed this tall, kind-eyed guy standing behind me in line. He seemed nice, pleasant enough, but to be honest, I was too focused on that latte to really notice him. Later that week, fate intervened, and we bumped into each other again. This time, we actually chatted while waiting for our coffees. We talked about everything: our favorite books, ridiculous childhood stories, and even our mutual obsession with that cozy little cafe. We laughed a lot, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt truly awake. Looking back, I realize I was quick to judge him, maybe because I was so wrapped up in my routine or because Jaden wasn't the type one typically dated. But that day, something shifted within me. There was a genuine warmth in his smile that I simply couldn't ignore. We exchanged numbers, and that very night, Jaden texted me, asking if I wanted to grab dinner sometime. We ended up going to this tiny Italian place, hidden away on a quiet side street. The food was incredible, but the best part was the effortless conversation. We talked for hours, discovering a surprising amount of common ground, a love for old movies, a secret passion for karaoke even though neither of us is particularly good, and a shared obsession with obscure documentaries. Over the next few weeks, we became inseparable. We went on hikes, explored museums, and even bravely attempted and hilariously failed a pottery class together. The more time I spent with Jaden, the more I realized just how special he was. He was funny, endlessly supportive, and always knew exactly how to make me smile. Even when I felt like crumbling, he pushed me to be a better person and made me feel like I could be my complete, unadulterated self around him. Then, on our second anniversary, Jaden surprised me with the most incredible proposal. We were on a weekend getaway to a charming cabin nestled in the mountains. It was snowing softly outside, and we were cuddled up by the crackling fireplace when he dropped to one knee and pulled out a ring. I don't even remember exactly what he said, because all I could focus on was the pure, unwavering love shining in his eyes. Of course, I said yes. As soon as we got back from our cabin trip, I dove headfirst into planning the wedding, bubbling with excitement. But this is where things took a turn for the truly bizarre. After Jaden and I got engaged, I finally met his mom, Maria, for the first time. She lived a bit out of town, so we hadn't had the chance to meet before. At first, Maria seemed incredibly sweet. She gushed about how thrilled she was to finally have a daughter-in-law. Jaden was her only child, and she mentioned she had always wanted more children, almost as if she was gaining another daughter. She even hugged me warmly and said she couldn't wait to get to know me better. However, this saccharine facade began to crumble fast. That weekend, Maria came to stay with us to help with some wedding planning and spend quality time together. Initially, I was thrilled, thinking we'd bond and grow even closer. But as the weekend progressed, her attitude underwent a chilling transformation that left me increasingly uncomfortable. The first passive-aggressive remark landed like a subtle jab during breakfast on Saturday morning. I had made a batch of my favorite fluffy pancakes, and while Jaden was outside enjoying his coffee, she casually observed, "Oh, I guess you don't worry too much about carbs, huh?" I laughed it off at the time, dismissing it as a harmless comment, but it was a harbinger of things to come. Later that day, as we were flipping through wedding dress magazines, Maria pointed at a model in a sleek, form-fitting gown and remarked, "This dress is stunning, but it's meant for someone with a very specific figure. Not everyone can pull it off." She glanced directly at me as she said it, and the subtle dig felt deliberate, as if she was implying I couldn't wear something like that. I just nodded, trying to brush it off, but it left me feeling oddly self-conscious. The veiled insults kept coming. When we were out shopping for decorations, she casually mentioned, "You know, my friend's daughter lost 20 pounds for her wedding. She looked so stunning. Have you thought about doing something like that?" I was completely taken aback and didn't really know how to respond. I mumbled something about being content with my body as it is, but it left me feeling judged, as if she thought I should be trying to lose weight for the wedding. The next morning, while she was snooping through my kitchen cupboards, she commented, "Oh, you have a lot of snacks here. I try to keep my house a bit more on the healthy side. You don't want to gain weight before the wedding, do you?" I couldn't believe she was still harping on about my weight, and it was beginning to really hurt my feelings. It felt like she was deliberately picking on me, even though she always had a sickly sweet smile on her face and spoke in a seemingly kind tone. What struck me as truly bizarre was that Maria never made those comments in front of Jaden. It was as if she had a switch she could flip on and off. When Jaden was around, she was all smiles and saccharine words. But the moment he stepped out or was in another room, the passive-aggressive jabs would start flying. I felt like I was living into completely different realities, one where I was accepted and loved, and another where I was constantly judged and criticized. Initially, I didn't think it was necessary to bring this up with Jaden. After all, she was his mom, and I didn't want to create any unnecessary tension between us, especially since we had just gotten engaged and were in such a blissful place. I kept telling myself it was just a minor inconvenience, something I could handle. Besides, I'm not exactly thin, I have curves, and I'm proud of my body. I've worked hard to feel confident in my own skin, and Maria's remarks, while annoying, felt more like an attempt to undermine my confidence than anything else. I was determined not to let her get to me. However, Maria started coming over more and more frequently. It felt like she was around every weekend, and it was beginning to drive me a little crazy. I worked Monday to Friday and only had the weekends to focus on wedding planning, but every time I turned around, there was Maria, offering to help or just hanging around. It was tough to concentrate on wedding preparations with her constantly there, making little snide comments and acting like she knew better than I did. One weekend, she called to say she'd be coming over again, and I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. I desperately needed some time alone to plan without her constant input. So, I told her I was going to be busy and wouldn't be home. She asked what I was up to, and before I could stop myself, I blurted out that I was going to look at wedding dresses. I think I just wanted her to know that I had important things to do. To my utter horror, she got really excited and said she'd love to come along. I didn't know how to say no without sounding rude, so I reluctantly agreed. The next thing I knew, she was at my door, beaming and eager to help me find the perfect dress. I tried to smile back, but inside, I was dreading how this shopping trip would unfold. We visited a few bridal shops, and from the moment we stepped inside, Maria was in full momzilla mode. It was utterly draining. I felt like I couldn't even breathe without her casting judgment. When I tried on a dress that I genuinely loved, she remarked, "It's nice, but don't you think it's a bit snug around the waist? Maybe something more flowy would suit you better." I was crushed because I adored that dress, but her words made me second-guess myself. By the end of the day, I hadn't found a dress, and I was feeling pretty low. Thankfully, Maria went back to her place, and I finally had a moment of peace. For the next few days, she kept texting and calling, asking when I'd be looking for dresses again. I just kept saying I didn't know when I'd have the time. I was determined not to tell her when I planned to go shopping. But my carefully constructed plan unraveled when Jaden mentioned to his mom that I'd be going dress shopping the next day. So, of course, she called me, asking what time she should come over. I found myself at a crossroads. Maria had already made so many remarks about my body that I dreaded the idea of her tagging along. I knew that if I took her with me to the bridal shop, it would be a disaster. So, I decided to concoct a lie. I told her that the bridal shop had a bizarre rule allowing only 2 people to accompany me, and my mom and maid of honor were already on their way. I realized now it was a pretty lame excuse, but at that moment, I couldn't think of anything else. Maria quickly pointed out how ridiculous my explanation was, saying, "What kind of bridal shop only allows 2 people? That's just silly." I fumbled for a response, saying, "I know, it's weird, but that's what they told me." I was sweating bullets because I knew how flimsy my lie sounded. I abruptly told her I had to go and ended the call before she could ask any more questions. As soon as I hung up, a huge wave of guilt washed over me. I hated lying to Jaden's mom, but I just couldn't face another day of her making me feel bad about myself. I decided to focus on the positive and remind myself that this day was supposed to be fun and exciting. My mom and maid of honor picked me up, and we headed to the bridal shop. I did my best to shake off the lingering guilt and just enjoy the moment, and in the end, I found a dress that I absolutely loved. After that, Maria didn't call, text, or even visit our house. She still kept in touch with Jaden, which was a bit of a relief since it avoided any awkwardness between them. I sent her a picture of me in the wedding dress, hoping to share some of my excitement with her. She responded with just a thumbs up emoji and nothing else. I wasn't sure how to interpret that, but I decided not to overthink it. With so much to do as the wedding approached, I didn't have time to dwell on her reaction. As the wedding day drew nearer, I became increasingly swamped with preparations. Honestly, I didn't reach out to Maria again. There was just too much to coordinate, finalizing the guest list, confirming the caterers, and ensuring all the decorations were perfect. Finally, the big day arrived. It exceeded all my expectations. The ceremony was beautiful, and I couldn't stop smiling as I walked down the aisle toward Jaden. The look on his face when he saw me in my dress was priceless, making all the stress of planning worthwhile. We said our vows, exchanged rings, and just like that, we were married. The reception started off perfectly. The venue was gorgeous, the weather was ideal, the food was delicious, and everyone seemed to be having a great time. I especially loved our first dance. Jaden and I had taken a few dance lessons, and we even managed not to step on each other's toes. It felt like a fairy tale, and I was on cloud 9. Everything was going swimmingly until I decided to get a drink. I walked over to the bar for something refreshing, and there was Maria, standing right there. She turned to me with a strangely enthusiastic smile and said, "You look like you're having a wonderful time. Let me get you a drink. Just relax and enjoy." I was a bit taken aback by her sudden enthusiasm, but thought maybe she was trying to make up for all the awkwardness. She handed me a Shirley Temple, and I thanked her and took a sip. A few minutes later, I started feeling dizzy, but I assumed it was just because I was tired. Then, I fainted, collapsing onto the floor and losing consciousness. Everything went black, and the next thing I knew, Jaden was panicking and calling for an ambulance. I could hear the sheer terror in his voice as he tried to keep me awake. People were gathering around, but it was all a blur. When the EMTs arrived, they quickly brought me back to consciousness and began asking questions about what I had eaten and drunk that day. I told them everything, including the meal I had at the reception and the Shirley Temple that Maria had given me. They expressed concern and asked if there was anything unusual or if I had taken any medication. That's when Maria, looking visibly guilty, stepped forward and admitted that the drink she gave me had alcohol in it. She explained that she didn't think it would be a big deal and thought it would help me relax. I was stunned. Why would she add alcohol to my drink without telling me? The situation became even more complicated when my maid of honor, Emily, spoke up. She informed the EMTs that I had taken some anxiety medication just minutes before walking down the aisle. I had been so incredibly anxious about everything going off without a hitch that I took a small dose to calm my nerves. It turned out that the combination of the medication and the alcohol in the drink was what caused me to collapse. There must have been some kind of terrifying chemical reaction that knocked me out. The EMTs explained that mixing alcohol with certain medications can be very dangerous and that I was fortunate the outcome wasn't more severe. After the EMTs left, Jaden turned to Maria and demanded an explanation. His voice was shaking with anger, and Maria looked completely shocked. She tried to explain, insisting she hadn't meant any harm and that it was all just a misunderstanding. But Jaden wasn't having any of it. He shouted at her to leave the reception immediately. I have never seen him so furious, and it broke my heart to witness his anger towards his mom on what was supposed to be a joyful day. With all the chaos, I wasn't feeling well, and the mood at the reception took a nosedive. Guests started to feel uncomfortable, and the joyous atmosphere we had worked so hard to create simply vanished. People began leaving one by one, and before we knew it, the reception ended early. It was devastating to see everyone leave so soon, and I felt like the day I had been dreaming of for so long had been irrevocably ruined. Jaden and I went back to our hotel room, and I was left trying to process everything that had happened. I felt numb, utterly exhausted, and overwhelmed with sadness. This day was supposed to be one of the happiest of my life, but instead, it had turned into a full-blown nightmare because of one careless act. I couldn't believe that Maria's actions had destroyed our special day. Maria kept texting and calling both me and Jaden, but neither of us responded. We needed some time to process everything and figure out our next steps. I could see that Jaden was deeply troubled by the situation. He loved his mom, but he was also incredibly hurt and angry over what she had done. It was a difficult situation, and I had no idea how to fix it. When we finally returned home, I tried to put the whole incident behind me and focus on starting our new life together. But it wasn't easy. Every time I thought about our wedding day, I felt a sharp pang of sorrow. I kept replaying the events in my mind, wondering how things could have turned out differently if Maria hadn't pulled that reckless stunt. It felt like a dark cloud hanging over what should have been a beautiful memory. Thankfully, we soon left for our honeymoon, and it was such a relief to escape all the drama and stress. Jaden and I had an amazing time exploring new places and creating beautiful memories together. It was the perfect getaway, and for those 2 weeks, I felt like everything was back to normal. We relaxed, laughed, and enjoyed each other's company without a care in the world. When we returned home, reality hit us like a ton of bricks. The moment we pulled into the driveway, there was Maria, standing at the door. My heart sank, and a wave of anxiety washed over me. I had anticipated this confrontation, but I wasn't prepared for it to happen as soon as we got back. What made it even worse was that she didn't offer an apology. Instead, she kept insisting that it wasn't her fault and that it was all just a prank. She tried to justify her actions, saying things like, "I didn't think it would hurt you," and "I just wanted to lighten the mood." It was infuriating to watch her refuse to take responsibility for what she had done. I couldn't believe she was trying to downplay the whole incident as if it were just a harmless joke. Jaden couldn't hold back any longer. He snapped and told her that enough was enough. He said she had crossed a line and needed to own up to her actions. He made it clear that the only way he would talk to her again was if she apologized to me. He told her that she had hurt me deeply, and it was not acceptable. Maria tried to interrupt, but Jaden didn't let her. He went on to say that from now on, they would only be seeing each other during holidays. No more random weekend visits, no unnecessary phone calls. He told her it would be like they were distant relatives who only met on special occasions. Maria was shocked and started to cry, but Jaden remained firm. I could see how painful it was for him to have to set such strict boundaries with his own mother, but he was determined to support me and ensure I felt safe and respected. Yesterday, while I was at work, I got a call from Maria. It caught me completely off guard because we hadn't spoken in a while, and I wasn't expecting her to reach out, especially during work hours. She told me she was outside my office and wanted to meet. I was surprised and didn't want her coming inside and causing any unnecessary drama, so I agreed to meet her outside to avoid a scene. We sat down at a small cafe across the street, and I could tell she was genuinely upset. As soon as we began talking, she broke down in tears. It was incredibly awkward because people around us started to stare. She told me she couldn't believe what Jaden was doing. He wasn't answering her calls or responding to her texts. She was distraught and begged me to talk to him on her behalf, saying she just wanted things to go back to the way they were before. I want to point out that up until this moment, Maria still hadn't apologized to me for what happened at the wedding. It was as if she was in complete denial about the impact of her actions. I told her that instead of coming to my office and causing a scene, she should be thinking about how her actions had affected both me and Jaden. I explained that she had ruined my wedding day, and it wasn't fair to expect me to just brush that aside and talk to Jaden for her. She tried to defend herself, saying she didn't mean any harm and was sorry I reacted the way I did. It was as though she couldn't see past her own perspective and understand that her actions have real consequences. She kept insisting that if she had known what would happen, she never would have done it. As she continued to cry, I noticed people in the cafe beginning to glance over with concern. The whole situation made me incredibly uncomfortable, and I just wanted to leave. I told her that I would see what I could do, but I didn't make any promises. Up until now, I still haven't talked to Jaden about it, because I'm not sure if I'm ready to forgive Maria. After all, she only apologized after I prompted her to do so. My mom thinks I should just let it go and forgive my mother-in-law, but I'm not entirely sure. What do you all think? I'd really appreciate your advice. Update 1. Hi everyone, thank you so much for all your comments and suggestions. It really means a lot to have a space where I can share my story and receive support. Maria's constant texts and calls were starting to wear me down, so I decided it was time to have another conversation with Jaden and figure out how we could move forward. I told Jaden that Maria had come to my office and apologized. It wasn't entirely heartfelt. Her apology wasn't exactly what I needed, but I felt like it was time to start mending things, even if just a little. I told him that I had forgiven her, which was mostly true because I wanted to move past this mess and focus on our future. Jaden looked at me with concern and asked if I was really sure. I assured him that I was ready to move on, but we needed to set some firm boundaries with his mom to avoid any more drama. He seemed relieved that I was willing to forgive her, but he also recognized that this wasn't just about me. It was about us as a couple and our need for peace and stability. After our talk, Jaden texted Maria, letting her know that he was glad she had apologized to me and that we were ready to try and move forward. However, he also made it clear that the boundaries we set before still stood. No more dropping by unannounced, no more constant calls, and no more overstepping her limits. He told her that we needed some space to focus on our own lives. Maria responded almost immediately, saying that she was so sorry for everything and that she just wanted to be a part of our lives. She promised to respect our boundaries and give us the space we need. I still have mixed feelings about the whole situation. On one hand, I'm glad that Maria seems to be taking our boundaries seriously, but on the other hand, I still feel a bit uneasy because I know that one slip-up could bring all the drama crashing back down. I'm trying to focus on the positive and remind myself that we are making progress, even if it's slow. Some of you have asked about my anxiety, and I want to thank you for your concern. I don't feel comfortable going into too much detail, but I do want to clarify that my anxiety wasn't about Jaden or our relationship. I knew he was the one for me from the moment things got serious. The anxiety was more related to the wedding day itself and the immense pressure that comes with planning such a big event. We had over 200 guests attending, and I was determined for everything to be perfect. I worried endlessly about all the little things that could go wrong, like the food not turning out well, the music not being enjoyable, or the decorations not living up to my expectations. The thought of any detail going awry made me incredibly anxious. I wanted our guests to have an amazing time and to remember our wedding as a beautiful and joyous celebration. Update 2. Hi everyone, something completely unexpected happened, and I'm still trying to figure out how to feel about it. Things were going smoothly until last weekend when Jaden received a call from Maria, inviting both of us to dinner at her place. She mentioned that it was important for us to have this dinner to start getting things back to normal after everything that had happened. Jaden told me about the invitation and asked what I thought. I hesitated, but ultimately told him it would be okay and that we should go. Maybe this was her way of trying to make amends. When we got to Maria's house, she greeted us with a warm smile, almost too warm. But after dinner, Maria did something that completely took me by surprise. She got up, left the room, and came back with a check for $5,000. She handed it to me, saying she was truly sorry for ruining our wedding day. While she couldn't change the past, she wanted to give me this money as a way to make up for it. I was completely taken aback and immediately felt incredibly uncomfortable. It was such an unexpected gesture, and I didn't know how to respond. I refused the money right away, telling her that I didn't need it and that we should just let bygones be bygones. Jaden agreed and told her that she didn't have to give us any money, but Maria was persistent, almost desperate. She wouldn't take the check back and ended up slipping it into my coat pocket. I was so shocked and didn't know how to handle it. She seemed almost desperate for us to accept it, which only made the situation more awkward. After that, we left her house and headed back home. On the way, Jaden and I talked about what had happened, and we were both utterly confused. Why would Maria give us such a large amount of money? It felt so strange, and I couldn't help but wonder what her true intentions were. Was she genuinely sorry? Or was this her way of trying to buy our forgiveness? I'm not sure, and it's left me feeling really unsettled. Jaden and I discussed it again, and we're still not certain about what to do. He's just as confused as I am, and we both want to approach this situation in a way that's fair and respectful. We don't want to hurt Maria's feelings or dismiss her attempts to make amends, but at the same time, we don't want to feel like we're being bought off. If anyone has any advice or has gone through something similar, I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts. Update 3. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and honestly, not much has changed. We still have the check that Maria gave us. It's just sitting in our drawer, almost like a physical reminder of everything that's happened. I'm not really sure what we'll end up doing with it, but for now, it's just there. As for our relationship with Maria, things are pretty much the same. She's been respecting our boundaries, which has been a huge relief. She doesn't show up unannounced anymore, and the constant barrage of texts and calls has stopped. It feels like she's genuinely trying to do better, and that gives me some hope for the future. Jaden and Maria still talk on the phone regularly, and their conversations seem to be positive. I'm relieved that their relationship hasn't suffered too much from everything that happened. I've also talked to Maria a few times since the dinner. Our conversations are polite and a bit formal, but both of us are making an effort to keep things friendly. I think this will be my last update for a while. I don't expect much to change anytime soon, and I'm hopeful that things will continue to improve, little by little. I want to focus on the positive and keep moving forward, and I believe that's the best approach for now. If anything major happens, I might pop back in with an update, but for now, I'm going to take a step back and concentrate on living my life. Thank you again for all your support, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. So, what do you think? Did I handle this situation with my mother-in-law the best way I could given everything that happened, from the passive-aggressive comments to the wedding day sabotage and then the unexpected offer of money for forgiveness? I'm really torn because on one hand, I want to move forward and have a healthy relationship with her, especially since she is Jaden's mother and he loves her so much, but on the other hand, her actions were deeply hurtful and really affected me, and I still struggle with the idea of fully trusting her, and the whole check situation is just weird. It feels like she's trying to buy her way back into our good graces after causing so much hurt, which almost feels worse than if she hadn't apologized at all, and I'm starting to wonder if accepting the check and donating it to a charity would be a good option. I would really appreciate hearing your thoughts and opinions on all of this. Maybe sharing your experiences if you've ever dealt with something similar, or just offering your perspective on how you think I should proceed from here.